Like, when I'm free, when I feel what I see, when I do it, I'm a freak with
Like Dominic, you're singing. Anyways, welcome to Canada's Food and Everything Else Food Safety for Safety podcast. Episode number, what are we, number 7, Dominic?
I think 7, maybe 8. Yeah.
I think this is number 7. But this is a cool one. This is one of the coolest ones I've done. I haven't done a cool one in a while from a cool location like you're at.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm at Disney World in Florida.
You're at Disney World in Florida.
Yeah.
And before we introduce our guest, how do you go down as a safety guy like you do? And you know all the tricks, you know everything. You're like the Yoda of food safety.
Well, I don't know. Thanks, Jay. I feel like Yoda. Like, have you ever seen Yoda? He's like an old man, right? He hobbles around.
No, that's not going that way.
That was me getting in and out of some of the rides. It doesn't cease to amaze me the job they do here. It really doesn't. They've got service safety on lockdown down here. We already talked about it a little bit before we started, and we'll talk about it more, I'm sure. But anybody in the hospitality industry can learn a lot from how they do things here. They really can. And our guest, she's been to another one of Disney's parks in California, and I you know what, we haven't talked about it, but I'm going to assume her experience was much the same. They do a really good job. They know how to make people feel good, and their standards are impeccable. Like,
do you find that through everything, though? You find that through everything?
I think so. I wouldn't comment on the movies and stuff like that, and maybe their corporate governance and all that kind of stuff. But I think, from a guest perspective and from a safety perspective, this is something I look at all the time. We'll talk about it. It's crazy. They do a really, really good job. And anybody who has a chance to visit one of their parks, in California or here in Florida. I prefer Florida, just there's so much more to do. But if you look at food service, if you look at safety, if you look at logistics, I was talking to a guy. They have 320 buses. They have more buses than Atlanta here at Disney World.
What?
They have more buses than the city of Atlanta at Disney World.
Serious?
It just got off the bus. 320 buses.
320.
Yeah, that's a logistical nightmare in itself. I'll get the stats for next week, and I'll tell you. The amount of food outlets they have is wild, and they do every one of them spectacular. It's safe. Like, I feel safe eating here.
Yeah, and you're probably one of the ones that they have like buzzers going off and lights going
off.
No,
not for me. No, the guy that was in Poison. I don't know if you remember that Frank Yanassis guy from. He was FDA. He's left that. He was the deputy director there, and he had a little clip in there, maybe 1 or 2 minutes where they were talking to him and the agriculture undersecretary or whatever. He was formerly from Disney. He was Disney, then Walmart, and then FDA in the States for food safety.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So is this where he broke ground then? Was it Disney?
This is, yeah. I don't know. I'm sure he had a job before this, but he was the main guy at Disney for years before he went to Walmart. And Walmart's game went up when he went there as well. And so did the FDA, really? By the way, in the States. I think, he left under some circumstances where he probably wasn't happy with the, you come from private industry where things, even in big companies, move pretty fast. That. From a little company like us, we would say, no, those big companies are slow. But going from that to government would destroy somebody, would break their morale pretty darn quick, right? So
absolutely,
especially if you're used to seeing things happen and change, and you can make things change pretty quick. So I I think when he was at Disney, he put a lot of, there's a sticker on on the fridge in my room here that says store foods at 41 degrees or colder. It's a little sticker on the door.
Serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Small things.
Well, I got lots of questions. I want you to introduce Gwen. But
yeah.
Guest Gwen first, and then I have like 20 some questions about this. I'm sure Gwen probably can answer a few as well.
So happy she couldn't get her camera going, but we'll do another episode.
Something about the company she works with are really strict.
We'll get her connected so we can see her lovely face, and she can. You'll see the expressions on some of the great questions that you pose.
Okay.
The lovely Gwen VanZeggelaar has been working with us for, you can say, more than 10 years. She'll tell us
really?
differently. Yeah.
Almost 13 years, yes.
Almost how many?
13.
Wow, 13.
Wow.
Yep. I started doing your food safety training for the first few years.
Wow.
Then,
so Gwen's been with us for quite a while. Gwen, tell us about you.
Well, I work, I'm a food safety specialist is what they call me. I work for SafeCheck. I do auditing for them. Different companies that we get sent out to go do. I do surprise audits, which are always really nice for some of them, not so nice for the others. And as well as that, we do some food safety training. So we have a SafeCheck course.
Very cool. So I have some questions for you too, Gwen, on this, but I want to thank you and welcome to this podcast. And it's so awesome when we have people on that have so much experience, because it allows such great questions and answers on this. But Gwen, what do you think is the number one? So Dominic's down in Disney World right now, critiquing everything that he sees. What do you think is one of those fundamental practices that operations need to do on a regular basis that are so big like that, like big retail stores, big restaurant companies, to keep things in check all the time? Like, what's that secret sauce that allows people to do, or allows companies to do that so well?
I think management buying in for sure. That's number one. Yeah. And leading. If they lead, then I think the rest of their employees will follow. Training is number one. A lot of people, the places I go to, they hire their employee, they don't give them the proper training. And when I show up to do an audit, these people feel terrible because they don't know how to do what I'm asking.
Yeah.
And I keep telling them it's not your fault. It's the people that didn't train you.
And do you find that often? Do you find that like a lot, or is that just the odd time? Or because I hear that on the side that I'm on a lot as well.
I find it a lot.
Yeah.
So part of what I do when I'll go do the audit is I'll train them. I'll show them how to do what they need, and whoever fell short on that, I find they really appreciate it. So.
Yeah, Jay, I'm going to jump in here on the training side. It's always nice to hear that you're doing a good job. We have a questionnaire that we send out to people after training. And Gwen's comments for probably for 13 years have been spectacular. It's so nice to hear, because usually you hear, oh, something sucked, right? Sometimes we'll hear the coffee was no good, or stuff like that. But in Gwen's case, I think what she says about what she sees as the gap, she practices that in training when she does our training, in helping people. So people, even if they don't know if they have English second language, if there's a challenge in any way, Gwen's got a way of making people feel comfortable without making them feel awkward about not knowing. So over the years, I've sat in on some of her training, just because I'm in Edmonton or I stop in. So that's a tough skill to have, to be able to connect with people and make them feel comfortable, especially on a, I don't want to say our training's boring, but the topic can be pretty dry sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So getting that message through is hard. And engaging people is hard. And same on
You're
the
right.
audits. I think it's the exact same thing. And I really like her comment on, sort of if it's important to me, it's going to happen. And I think you said the same thing. That's one of the things that our industry, the food service industry, has had a challenge for years. It's a big challenge, right? It's really, really tough. It's extra hard now because there's wage pressures. We have labor pressures. There's no labor. Kind of the easy answer is keep your people.
Here's two things on that. Is that I think we have labor issues where the leadership is maybe not at its prime in the locations that are saying they have problems with employment or labor problems. I think it comes down to exactly what Gwen and yourself are saying, is that it's about leadership. Because I always look at, I'm not going to name the coffee chain that's the biggest one in the world. Don't need to. But I don't see them ever having a problem with labor. They have so many people that work in those stores every day. They do a podcast with their staff on how awesome it is to work there. And I'm sure they're challenged like any other large corporation or company like that. But I really see good leadership happening there. And when you sit in the stores, trust me, I sit in a few, my travels, is you hear how they're being led very, very properly and not discouraged. And you go to places where you can see the staff are mad, they're not engaged. I think that's when you have the problems of labor. And I think that happens
I would agree
also
with you 100%.
I think it also gets into the problems with not just labor, but I think it gets in problems like with practicing food safety and different things within like back to what Gwen was saying, you have to lead by example. Well, how many leaders or owners of restaurants and stuff like this really, after that, I've seen it before. I'm not going to say every one of them, but I do see some leaders just sitting back and letting their staff do it without rolling up the sleeves. It used to be the owners were rolling up their sleeves as much as the staff were. And I see that shifting a lot.
I don't want to speak for industry. I think it's, we're treading into some dangerous waters here. I
was going to say,
but we'll do it anyway,
your
right?
Mickey eggs are going to be screwed up tomorrow, buddy.
Yeah, but we'll do it anyway. The challenges are big. I think the challenges are big. You have a lot of people that left the industry during the pandemic. I think that's one thing. We in the audits we do, we won't, it's confidential on who we audit and what we do there. But typically the food service industry and the service industry in general has a huge turnover issue, except in some companies, right? Some companies, they have less turnover. And why is it? It's a culture thing, right? It's a culture thing. It might be management, but I think it's probably a little more than that. There's probably management, there's training, there's the work culture itself, there's the benefits, there's like the vibe of the company. The time, yeah.
The commitment of time.
So people want to feel invested in, right? People want to feel like you care. And if you're faking that you care, that'll come across that you're faking it. People can read that, right? So you're not going to have staff that like their job and feel comfortable in their job. Stay, even if sometimes even if the money's better somewhere else, because hey, I like working with my boss. I like the people I work with.
Yeah.
Right. So when the place that you're working at is treating you well, and they can't always do it with money, right? That's another challenge. Then you're gonna feel it, and you're more likely to stay. Now, is there other ways to reward people? training is one, right? Helping them advance their career. We need to train those future leaders. And the companies that do it have success.
Yeah, they do. Let's go. I want to go back to Disney because you're down there and stuff like this. I want to talk a little bit more about Disney and some of the things that you're noticing down there. So you saw the tag on the fridge. It shows this. What's it like around when you're give me some examples of what you're seeing that really stands out other than in your room
well,
on the fridge.
I said, so it's like 105 degrees apparently here with the humidity Fahrenheit. It's 35 Celsius. It's hot. Like I was telling my family that I'm here with, I said, like in Calgary at 30, they issue a heat warning.
Yeah.
Right. They say don't go outdoors if you know. Yeah. I think it's quieter in the park a little bit because people, maybe the locals aren't coming because it's too hot. But they wrap their freezers in insulating blankets to help keep it colder.
What?
The freezers, the ice cream. Now, the ice cream in itself isn't necessarily a dangerous food until it's melting and it's over 40 Fahrenheit or 4 Celsius. So but they're doing it so that the ice creams aren't soft, right? Yeah. They're doing it for quality. So just the fact that every little kiosk, and there's probably hundreds of them in here, every little kiosk that has one of these ice cream freezers outside has an insulating blanket on, tells you that they're looking at things that one extra level. They're doing those extra things that make them stand out, right? The garbage. There's no garbage anywhere. Every person that's got a name tag on that isn't like an employee directly serving you, that's walking around with a walkie-talkie, that's some sort of manager, has one of those grabber things, right, to pick up garbage. Like
you know what?
Right?
So okay, is there another example? Because that's crazy. Because that takes a lot of time and effort. That's that whole thing, right? That extra little bit takes time and effort. Where do you think that starts, though? Like, where does that come?
I think it starts in the leadership to say, like, I think if you read a little bit,
it's gonna be a lot of education, though.
They train like crazy. They do training like crazy. They invest a lot in their staff in training, and I think that I don't want to get into the wages and all that stuff. I don't know enough about that to speak about it, but down here in Orlando, they're a big employer. They employ a lot of people. That culture, we talk about food safety culture and food safety, but I think the culture in itself is service, right? You're a guest here, right? Last night at dinner, we're sitting at a table, this table beside us, and again, my granddaughter commented on it. She said, "I like how the server said, 'Welcome, family.'" So he called us. He said, "Family." The table beside us, he said, "How's the family doing tonight?" "I'll be right back." Different. I'll be back, family. He said, "I'll be back, family." Hey, family. Does anybody need anything else? Wow. Yeah. Our server tonight was Jay. His name was Jay. And he was probably the best server I've had in years. I went back to comment. It was like an all-inclusive thing and blah, blah, blah. And he said, like, we didn't order any drinks, any alcoholic beverages, but he said, hey, everything's included. All I want you to do when you leave is wave to me and say bye and thanks. I'm happy you were here.
Wow.
Yeah, that extra little bit. So he wasn't working for tips. He wasn't.
So how do they do that? How do you train? Because how do you train that? How do you train that?
Gwen, you jump in here.
Yeah, Gwen, what do you think? What's the secret? There's a sauce on this.
And I think Gwen's got some history of, don't name the employer, Gwen, where you worked for a long time before. We don't want to get sued here. But you had told me a story about, when some stuff had changed there, and that's kind of where it was time for you to leave because
Yeah, management had changed for sure. Yeah. I think it all comes down to positive management for sure. And then the training is most important because a lot of these guys assume the people that they hire already know what's expected.
And how do you think you continue that? Because I've seen companies, they'll come out with the rah ha ha, and then it fades away and it dwindles. How do you keep? Because Disney's been around. How long has Disney been around? Were you at the opening? Your opening,
100
Dominic?
years. 100 years since their first sort of movie. But Disney World, I think, opened in 71, and
Is it 71?
Disneyland opened in the mid 50s, I think.
Yeah,
Gwen.
early. Yeah, I think it was the early 50s. It was after the war, right?
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of like, how do you continue that?
Gwen, I think it's just commitment. So like, if you commit to doing something, you commit, and you commit for the long term. Now, obviously, if it doesn't work, you have to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like in business, we know, you have to make money to continue to operate.
Yeah.
Gwen has trained a course for us when we've had 4 people, maybe even 3. Gwen, I don't know. What's your smallest number, Ben?
The smallest is 1.
Okay. Wow. I'm surprised I didn't cancel that one.
Sounds like my first podcast.
The smallest is 1. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. We try really hard not to cancel a course. Now, obviously, we want to make money when we do them, right? But the service commitment is, a long time ago, we heard from many people that public health would always cancel a course if they didn't have 15 people, especially in rural areas in Alberta, right? Like people, they wanted a minimum number. And our number internally was 4. Even at 4, we don't make money. We need like 12 to make money in a course, because we don't have our own facility, especially in Edmonton, right? But we've run courses for 4 and 5, and that's because we're committed to doing the right thing for the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality of that is, usually that's going to work in our favor. That's going to be good for us. But sometimes it doesn't. And if we waver on the times when it doesn't, then we're not going to be good at anything.
Yeah.
Right. It makes it really, it would make it really hard.
You know what?
So I think back to your original question, it's commitment from the people that hold the purse strings. That's the reality.
Well, okay, let's just get into that for a second, because I talked about that this week, but with someone, the same thing is it has to be that leadership. But I think leadership, in a sense, has to also invest the time and listen. I don't think leadership is listening because everyone wants to tell something. Like, we get through the pandemic, the world, I got to tell you. And I really think people need to stop and listen to be better leaders, to lead what they're doing. And it's sometimes not the direct listening, it's the indirect listening. It's listening between the lines of someone saying something. And I think that's happening in our industry even more right now, is that we're very vocal. We want to post stuff all the time and tell people how to fix their businesses and everything else. But stop and listening, I think, is the number one thing we need to work on moving into the rest of this year and into next year. Because it's difficult for people. But when people say I'm going, and we see this in mental illness, everything else happening in food service right now, stop and listen. Not just to what they're saying, but what they're not saying. And I think that's going to make us better leaders. And I think it's going to help us lead through league organizations like Disney into doing those practices what's right. They listen, I guarantee, to their customers. It's no different than Crumble Cookie. And Crumble Cookie listens to their customers, and that's why they're one of the fastest growing franchises in the States.
Yeah.
Because they listen. They really do. And I think people say it, but are you really listening to what your customers want, what your people are saying to you, your staff? Are you listening to what you need to do? I don't think we're doing it enough. I think we're first out of the gate to say something. Again,
it's tough, right? It's tough. I know personally, again, we're just a small company and we can do it. When we get that feedback, like people say, well, how often do you change your course? Well, once a week. What do you mean once a week? No, we don't put out a whole new course every week, but every week we make a small little update. We make small to our.
But that's
our online
commitment.
course.
The time. That's commitment time.
For sure, and it's
You're willing
not,
to commit that,
and it's not always easy, right? Because sometimes you got to break stuff to fix it. But that's just a small example of what we do. Now, in a restaurant, can you change a menu? Yeah. If you listen to your staff, they're the ones on the front line, right? Especially if you got a bigger operation, they're the ones on the front line, and they're getting that. Now, again, if they have the training to get that feedback and pass it on. Now, the problem with that, especially in food service, I think sometimes is if the person that's doing that service gives the feedback and they're shot down, or gives the feedback and nothing happens, or gives the feedback and there's a negative from it, you've burned that bridge as the leadership, right? That person, you're going to have to work really, really hard to gain their trust back for them to even share the feedback with you.
Yeah.
So if you empower them to make the decision to do it right, and you empower them to give you the feedback, and they know that you're going to act on it.
That's trust. That takes so much trust. That is the biggest thing that more and more people, I think, need to focus on right now as leaders, is just building trust. Is just and keeping it, and not just keeping it, but they have to nourish it. They have to feed it. They have to work on it. They have to train themselves. They can't just give it because they get a big title.
Yeah,
I hate people that just gets big titles and think they earned it. Right now, earn it, keep it. Right, keep it. Right, not just in the sense as a position, but keep earning that title, but with your people. And I think it would fix a lot of things if people thought of that a little bit more often and focused on it. So give me another example. So you got the waiter saying family, which is, I think that's brilliant, by the way, because I have taught that before. But by the way, before we get into more ideas, is that Be Our Guest. Have you ever read Be Our Guest?
I have not.
It's by Disney. It's called Be Our Guest. I think it was released in 2001. They did a re-release 2011 on it. And I recommend anyone in any customer service business, read it. Because I read it a long, long time ago. And it talks about, they even have an example in there. I think it's called Fork. I forget how they name it, but it's more or less like Fork to the Parking Lot. So I don't know if you noticed, I don't know if you drove there, maybe you didn't, but if you drive to Disney, let's say Disneyland, maybe not Disney World, but there's people out there watching where you park. I don't know if you know this. Maybe it's different today, but they have this in the book as an example. So when you park, there's people like the staff that work at Disney watch where you park. So when you're leaving and having the best day of your life and you're looking for, and they got this feedback from their customers, is that people go from like a high of I've had the best time of my life to the lowest because they can't remember where their vehicles are, that they want them to remember and go, hey, what's your car look like? Oh yeah, you're over here. They will point you where you parked. And that will even make you going, wow, right to the end, you leave in your car, they're working on customer service. And I think I am fascinated by that. That's why they have I think it's a bestseller on service. But it is really an art, and they have it in here. It's Performing the Art of Customer Service is the title underneath the book, the subtitle. I think we need to look at that. But give me some other examples if you have any, Dominic. Give us some more examples around that art of customer service that you've seen.
Yeah, I saw a lady in the Princess shop. I'm not sure what shop it was, but my granddaughter Shannon bought her a tiara.
Okay.
But another little girl did not buy something in this shop, and she ended up buying a little pin. And I don't know if it was economics or whatever, but the lady that went and helped her and said, Oh, you didn't buy the tiara. That's okay. You got this pin. That's really special. Do you want to have a Tinkerbell wish sprinkling? So she didn't have to. The girl spent $5 or $8.
Yeah.
But this lady in customer service, she went and she did, and I watched it because I was standing there. First off, because the air conditioning, right? But she went and did this 5-minute sprinkling ceremony of Tinkerbell's fairy dust on this little girl, and the smile on her face was like, I almost cried, man. I was like, wow, for the little girl, right? Not because of the ceremony, but she made this kid feel so special, and for $5.
Wow.
Yeah, and then she said to the mom, I saw the dad. I think she said the dad, but whether it was the dad or not, I don't know. But she said, I saw the dad, and there was 2 other boys, and yourself. For them, I have some stickers, and she said, please make sure that they get them. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, yeah, it was wow.
But here's the thing. So I've trained this before, and Gwen, I want you on this as well. Do you think business, and this is different for a lot of businesses, but I believe that the DNA of Disney isn't about increasing sales, but creating more fans. What is more powerful? I'm going to need your opinions because you're both in an awesome business. And I love hearing this from people because I focus on creating fans. That's my job. Sales will come. Do you believe it's focusing on sales so much that you don't focus on the fan base? But companies that are like Disney, I think they truly focus on fans. What's more important? Your perspective. Gwen? Let's start with Gwen.
If you build it, they will come. I totally believe the fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because once they all show up, then there go your sales.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are. I don't know if we have fans, but we're proof of that.
Fans are for you. They're fans. They're just you may.
Yeah, but
happy customers.
I think I go for for me, it's a pretty simple rule. The golden rule: treat others as you'd like to be treated.
Yeah.
So if there's a question of a refund, whatever it is, it's what would make you feel right. Now, if we get abused, even sometimes we take it, but generally, no, we don't. But so I don't want a whole bunch of people call and say, hey, they said you take shit and abuse even, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We have even that, because at the end of the day, it's like we have to serve the 98% of people who are great to us. We can't not serve them because of the 2% that are bad. And that,
I love that. That's great.
It's so true. Way back, the people that work for us, including some senior executives at my company, Gwen, you know who she is. The question would always come up. Oh, we have to put a policy in for this, or we have to start charging for this because of X. And all I would do is I would go back and I would say, but can you back that up with something? Like, what's the reason for that? And that's because of my training at Costco. I'm not going to say I had a customer service first just because of my family business as a small bakery. We were always about treating the customer right. We were always about helping the person that didn't have anything. That is just from a kid. We did that. But when internally that would come up, I would just say, we're going to change this because of this. Okay. So how many people like this did you have this week, this month, this year, even today?
Yeah.
And usually they couldn't come up with the numbers, right? And I would go backwards from there and say, okay, well, track it for a week. Let's see. If it's real, then maybe we probably have to change something because we're causing some issue, right? Yeah. Maybe our instructions aren't enough. Maybe, there's something that we're not doing right. And that usually led to sort of some self-reflection on, I'm frustrated right now by this, but in reality, we had 900 other customers this week that were happy. So we're not gonna change something because one person did something wrong.
And you're always going to have that. Every
That's
business,
right. So it's
every
like
restaurant, everything.
let's work for the other 98 people.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are. That means that it either proves something, right? If there was 98 that were unhappy and 2 were happy, we're doing something really wrong.
Yeah. So how does, Dominic, while you're down there, how does like their safety protocols, it must be insane. Like, do you think they're just training safety all the time?
Yeah, it's a big part of what they do. You got hundreds of thousands of people. They got 4 parks. I don't know. I'll go look the number up. It's massive though. They're like just even the cars, right? The amount of cars, there's probably 30,000-40,000 cars come to these parks every day. It's huge. It's crazy. When they have a parade, they've got tape on the ground. They've got 5 or 6 people that come before the parade. They've got a staff member every 20 feet to make sure that people don't get on the street as this little parades going by. Now, history and time but I think what's happening is they're always looking at making those little improvements, right? Just making small little improvements based on the cars, right? Based on how many people were at the parade, based on all those stats. And I think they analyze that data like crazy.
Oh, I'm assuming they have,
right?
Like, I'm assuming that
they do a really good job of that. And they've got technology and they got money and power, right? They dominate the film industry now, right? So they've got lots of things and data points that they collect. And you know what? In our industry, I don't know if you've talked about this in the past, but I think you have. We don't know enough about our customers. So, some brands don't, but small and medium.
but
and back to what you said about Crumble, they went and built a brand and recognized who their customer was.
And
before they ever made a cookie,
they
right?
maintain that though, but they did, and then they nourish it. They feed it, like they work on that. They don't just take it for granted. They work on it every day, and I think that's what Disney also does. Is they work on that every day. And I think back to what I was saying earlier as well is you got to listen, and listening doesn't always mean just sitting there and listening with your ears. It's actually reading the data, looking at what the people are saying, seeing what's on social media. All these different things that the aspect around your brand or your company needs to be, you need to listen, because to a point, if that 1% is upset, we don't need to adjust our business model, but that 1% may be saying something that's also the 98 ain't or 99 ain't hearing.
Yeah, you still have to take their feedback for sure and look at it to see they might notice something.
Exactly. There might be always, you got to listen to everything. You got to take the time. You got to pause, slow down, and listen, and to take that listening, but also just to listen to it differently. Like I think you have to listen differently more and more today. But I have some stats, and I think it'd be kind of fun about Disney World. You're like, oh no, Jay, you gave me the look. So, hey, Gwen, I want you in on this. I'm going to guess. Okay. A little game. Can we do a little game? A little game on the stats around Disney? Okay, here we go. All right. How many between whoever gets the closest wins each question. So, Dominic, Gwen, how many orders of meatloaf and mashed potatoes are ordered every day at the 50s Prime Cafe in Disney Hollywood Studios? Is it between, I'll give you a number, give me a guess. How many orders, of meatloaf and mashed potatoes every day our order at the 50s diner every day? Is it between 200 or 300? Orders of meatloaf, just meatloaf and mashed potatoes. How many?
So between 200 and 300?
No, I said so between 100 and 300.
Oh, Gwen, you go first.
This is a warm up. This is a warm up.
Is it in Disneyland or Disney World?
World. This is all world. Yeah.
In a day, how many?
Yeah. This is just the cafe. It's a warm up.
150,000.
No. He said 200 and 300.
Yeah. Between
200 and 300,000.
This is just a warm up. I'm just warming
up. No, not
up.
1,000. Just 100. 100.
Just 100. Yeah.
Not thousands. No, not dollars, Gwen. Orders.
This is meatloaf.
In one day.
Seriously?
In one day.
Anyways.
Okay.
I'm going to go for
Fast.
207.
Okay, close.
299.
No, 125. 125 orders. You might be like,
125?
Yeah, that's nothing, right? That's normal. Okay, Here we go. How many burgers? We're going to get into fun stuff now. How many hamburgers are eaten in the park every year?
Every year?
Every year.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 1.7 million.
Okay, Dominic's 1.7. Gwen, quick.
3 million.
7 million.
Whoa!
Okay.
7 million.
7 million. Here we go. How many hot dogs are each year in Walt Disney World?
Oh, okay. That's got to be 7 million hamburgers. 12 million hot dogs.
12 million hot dogs.
I'm going to say 9.5 million.
5 million.
5 million.
Oh, that's hot dogs. Oh.
Okay. How many? So the amount of time needed to cook each turkey leg that they offer, and they barbecue 1.4 million barbecued turkey legs are not on each year at the Walt Disney World. 1.4 million. It's a lot of turkeys. How long?
They're smoked, I think.
Need to cook each leg.
12 hours.
6 hours.
6 hours.
That's a lot of time. Think about that. That goes back to that service. You're thinking food safety.
Yeah. Well, they invest in technology and equipment here, Jay. I don't think they skimp on that part of it. Like you see people rolling carts around with, hot holding units all over the place.
Okay. How many million pounds of mac and cheese are eaten each year there?
Oh, wow.
How many millions?
I've had it twice, by the way.
Is it good?
Pretty good. I'll kind of get mac and cheese anywhere I go. Just because I want to try it. It's pretty good. Gwen, you go.
Pounds? Oh, I don't know. 3 million pounds.
It's a lot. It's a lot of crap.
I'm going to say it's more. 7 million.
It's only 500,000.
Really?
500,000 pounds of mac and cheese are eaten each year. Yeah, there's some staggering numbers here. I think you. I don't know. It's a park, man. It's not the States.
Yeah.
Here we go. How many chefs? Last question. How many chefs cook at Disney World? Number of chefs.
300.
450.
350.
Wow, Gwen.
Without going over.
Gwen for the win, eh? I think, yeah.
I think so, eh? Unbelievable. There's 3,677 total seats are available at Disney's Hollywood Studio restaurants. 36.
That's only one of the 4 parks.
Exactly. Get out of 3 parks, right? Right. There's 18.2 million packages and 2 million pounds of bulk ketchup are used at Walt Disney World annually. I hope they get a deal. Right? Isn't that crazy? So you think of these volumes. That's such a... And then do they share, like, if they get someone sick, Dominic? Like, do they ever get anyone sick, do you think? Or does, like, not by intent, but like
I'm sure
by
it's happened, but I don't know the stats, Jay. I would think
Like, I'm assuming they wouldn't. They're probably
I don't know if they'd share it, but I think like they have their own auditors. They
really.
They take safety, including food safety, really, really seriously here.
Oh, I can imagine.
They ask about allergens at every meal. Like when you're having a sit down meal, yeah, for sure. They do. I'm sure it happens, right? But
well, it's like you've taught me that it's always going to happen. It's more or less how you handle it, right?
Yeah, their protocols are pretty tight, and I don't know what their training regime is on the food safety side, but I'm going to say, just given what I've seen, some of their kitchens are open. Like we were in one this morning where we had lunch, and you could see a lot of what's going on. Like it's a big cafeteria, cafe style place, right? I saw a lot of thermometers.
Did you?
I did. And I saw people doing, I saw like a supervisor of some sort doing kind of a line check and stuff. Our food was hot. Everything we've had is hot or cold. Like even the water outside, you see somebody carton, it's water. It doesn't need to be refrigerated, but they want to make sure that everybody, especially probably when it's 35, right? It's like you have an expectation you're going to get a cold drink. So I don't know what the number is, but they've increased their ice delivery frequency to these little carts.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't see a cart with water that didn't have ice in it, and like or sitting in a pool of water, right?
Yeah.
Where the ice has melted hours ago, and the water is warm.
We've all seen that at hotels.
Yeah, you've seen that, right? In lots of places. So that attention to detail, it's like anything, right? That attention to detail will gain you success. So you need the training, you need the commitment, you need the equipment. But the first thing is, and sometimes that it all takes time for sure. It doesn't always take money, which I think is kind of where our industry is hung up on. It's going to be expensive. Some things are for sure, right? Some things are. There's no question. But some things are not as expensive as we think. And the biggest thing we can do with our staff to make a difference is invest time in them. And time is expensive for sure. But back to Gwen, you never really told us your story of why you left, except that management.
Oh, yeah.
changed. But how long were you there?
I was there for 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a political thing. I was related to the previous CEO, and when he left, we were all just kind of asked to not communicate with that person anymore. So,
wow.
Yeah, I was just, and that's difficult for me to do because it was my dad. So
that would be hard.
But you were doing your job, right? Like it wasn't. And here's the thing, right? That's kind of like anywhere. If you're doing your job and you're doing it well, in whose interest is it to lose that person? The only people that lose in that situation is the customer and the person losing their job. But the customer is going to feel that either in poor performance, sabotage, even in some places, right? We've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Right. So, treating people well is important. And if you treat your staff well, your staff, 99% of them are going to treat your customers well because they feel supported and needed where they're working. It's hard. There's no question it's hard, right? It is.
But I think it becomes contagious if you do it right.
Yeah.
Then it just becomes a part of your DNA. But you have to work. I always say you have to work on being that. It just doesn't come easy. And when you do get to a point where you have that trust and you're creating like a resort like Disney where everything's top of this level, how do you go to the next? Is there a next level for Disney? or is it just maintaining that level of high?
I think the challenge now is, especially after the pandemic, I asked the bus driver, they didn't pick us up at the airport to take us to our hotel. We're staying at the resort. We're staying in Disney World. So we're staying in one of their hotels. And before, what they used to have is this magic coach service that would pick you up at the airport and bring you to your hotel, bring you to your park, to the hotel you're staying at. And apparently they dropped that during the pandemic for probably for good reason, right? There was nobody coming. Yeah. But they haven't brought it back. And I noticed that. So I think the challenge now is, when you're at the top, is making cuts because you think you're great and people aren't going to notice.
Yeah.
And people notice those little things. Just like we noticed the little things about the server. Like we noticed, I think even my granddaughter, she noticed, she said, she said, no, you have to leave him a really good tip. And I don't know if you heard that, but I just said, no, it's all included, Justice. Like there's no tipping. It's all included. Mm-hmm. And she said, oh, that's really nice. So she noticed how
wow.
Really nice. And me and her go out for a meal every week, and we try and do a different restaurant every Sunday. She notices those things because I like to talk about them, and she likes to, I'll say, rate your meal or tell me what the bathrooms look like, or, would you come back here? Because I think it's cool. Like she has fun, right?
I think it's your training.
Yeah, we got her in training. But the challenge, I think, for companies when they're at the top of their game is slipping. It's maintaining. It's really, really hard, right? Because you've got these challenges. Yeah. But then if you start kind of believing that you're also great, I think that's when you start to make mistakes.
Yes. Taking things almost for granted.
Yeah.
That you're the best, right?
Yeah. And I don't know if Disney, they bought Marvel, they bought Fox, they own a lot of the media out there, right? So
yeah.
If you've ever been down here, Gwen, when you went to Disneyland, did you go to Universal Studios?
Yes.
Did you compare the two to each other?
Yes, I loved Universal Studios.
You did?
Yeah, but
I thought Universal was trash in compared to Disney World. I liked some of their rides and stuff, but my comparison was like, how clean was it? How nice were the bathrooms? How good was the food? What's the value like? Like I looked at all those things, and we just come from Disney land in California, and we went to Universal there, and we did the same in Florida on a previous trip, and everything was just not quite as good, I thought. Now, apparently down here, when I ask people, some of the people that I've asked around here, they say that Universal's upping their game because they're trying to catch Disney, right? They want to be as good, I think, is their goal, because they're trying to attract the same customer. Interestingly enough, I'll tell you what the loyalty down here is. The person that took us from the airport to our hotel. And my daughter mentioned this last night. She said, did you not think that it was odd that our driver said they had memberships to Disney World, Universal Studios, and monthly? So Disney World is like $80 a month. Because they're Florida residents, they get some sort of break on their park passes. But he had a Disney World membership that he pays monthly for, a Universal Studios membership that he pays monthly for, a SeaWorld membership that he pays monthly for, a Busch Gardens, wait.
What? So there's a lot of money. Now, you got me asking.
Yeah, but it's loyalty, right? Exactly.
But I thought loyalty was gone.
I don't know. I think if you do a good job of it, well, Costco's a good job does. Look at loyalty to Costco. You pay a membership there.
True.
But what, and I think I'm an ex-Costco guy. Costco's got that cult-like following. Why?
Well, that's same as Starbucks. They've got that
But why?
secret sauce.
Like everybody's got good coffee now. Like Starbucks maybe had good coffee by themselves 20 years ago. But McDonald's even's got good coffee now, right? And they never used to. Like McDonald's got, like, maybe it's not Starbucks, but McDonald's got good coffee. I think the difference is, for me anyway, Costco, I would put Disney World in here. You trust the brand and they treat you right. Do you trust? Because everybody sells jeans.
I know, but it takes time to build that trust because you focus on.
So you have to start and you have to stay committed. I think goes back to I think where we started, right? Is that if you don't start right, it's much, much harder to put those things in place. And think of all the bridges you've burned in the meantime. All the people. So if you're committed to doing it right and being the best at whatever it is that you're doing, if you're just doing French fries, then you're just doing French fries. Do it well, right? Treat the customer right. Cleanliness, obviously, in the safety, in the safety game, right? You cannot compromise on those things, because when you lose that customer, you're losing them, and I don't know, +5 or something, right? Whatever that number is, it floats around on how many people you're going to tell on your bad experience, right? But your good experience, you're going to tell less, but you're going to tell them, and you're going to stay loyal to them.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to. The challenge is you have to do it all the time. You can't be good one day and bad the next. You have to be consistently good at it.
And I think that's that whole thing is you focus on the people, you focus on that service, everything else will come. Give those experiences. And I've heard that so much lately as well.
It's the only thing that really sets us apart anymore, because, if you train well enough. Oh, sorry, I'll tell you another thing that happened tonight. I ordered medium, my filet.
Okay.
Justice ordered medium. My Shannon ordered medium well, and I don't remember what Sasha had. She had something else. My server, when I was about 3/4 of the way through, after my first or second bite, I said to Shannon and Justice, my granddaughter, I said, "This is medium well or well. This is not medium." And I asked Justice, "How's yours?" Because she ordered the same as me. She said, "Mine's okay." She says, it's a little dry, but it's good. I like it." I asked for more sauce, the steak sauce that it came with. Jay, my server, when I was about halfway done, came and said, "Sir, I've ordered another steak for you, because I know this one was not the medium that you ordered." And I said, "Jay, no, I'm okay." He said, no, it's already done. You can take it or throw it away, whatever you want to do with it, but I've already done it. And I said, "Well, how did you know? Did you hear me?" He chuckled and he says, "Yeah, there's cameras everywhere, don't you know?" And he laughed and I said, then he said, no, he says, "I saw you." He says, "I saw you make a couple cuts, and there's no pink in the middle of this at all." And he said, "I could see that it was dry." So he was watching. That's customer service. That's exactly what that is. He didn't have to. I was almost done, and I didn't even want another one, but he brought it. Sorry, he ordered it before he even told me. He ordered it for me. He anticipated, maybe somebody else would have taken it. And me and my granddaughter, we ate half of that second one.
Mm-hmm.
But I was okay, because you know what? Even though it wasn't perfect, mine was good, and I just asked for extra sauce. And as much as I'm picky, I don't like to complain. I would tell them after, right? Because I don't want to be that person that says, the garnish was wrong or any of that kind of stuff. I would tell them after and say, "Hey, you might want to look at this." But he anticipated that, and he did it.
Wow.
So, And again, not for a tip, right? He wasn't doing it because he was looking for something extra. He was doing it because he was being attentive. And I think that's, in the service industry, that's the difference we have. We don't have exclusivity on a lot of things anymore, right?
No.
Costco used to be able to say that a long time ago. They were the only ones that had certain things. But pretty well, almost anything is available from multiple people. So the things that distinguish us is, what's the service like? How do they treat me? And that's
amazing, though.
Amazingly, that's the one that's in our control, right? So,
well, I think so. But the thing is, and I want to say this because I know we have to wrap up, so you can get back to your amazing experience there. But I do want to say that's how I used to train a lot of the servers and stuff like this. Is that a lot of people will look at do we really need to give you another steak? Or do we have to go that extra little bit? Back to you were saying, is that over that top? We will remember those over the top moments are more valuable than worrying about the cost of that steak and what that means. You will probably tell that story for the next 10 to 20 years, right?
Yeah.
That story, is it worth the few extra dollars it costed for that? Because you left over the top with that over to the top experience. And I think sometimes we do just enough to get by. When we train or we do different things, we just do the bare minimum to get by. And I see more of that. I used to train my servers to, this is before COVID days, this is many years ago, way back when, is that when you're finished, your tables usually leave at the same time roughly, or they all come in around that 5 to 6 time, and they usually leave around that 7 to 8 time. So you usually have a good, and after being a server so well, you can judge your tables. And I used to train them to run to the door and shake the guest hands when they left.
Nice.
And just thank them. That handshake got more people jobs outside the restaurant because people had never experienced that before. And that was before COVID and things like this happened, that you could do that. Today be a little more trickier. But I used to also encourage some of them to do that at the tables when they went up and shake the hands, especially of the kids, right? And like to your point, family, welcome family. It was incredible. I was a young student as well. So it was the jobs that was offered. It was insane just by shaking a hand. And that was that human touch they used to call it around serving. And I think all those different things we lose. So today is the bare minimum. And I always say when we train, we talk about this with restaurants on our shows and stuff. When's the last time someone went around and just checked up on your meal, right? As a manager, how's your meals? I still remember today, and you know how much I eat out a lot across this country, a lot. And I still remember today, it was London, it was Woodstock, Ontario. I was doing a show down there. And we were talking about this. I actually think we were training restaurants on this down there. And the manager came in, and I'm telling you, this has got to be almost 10 years ago. That's how long ago it was. He came to our table and just checked on how our meal was going, our manager, and thanked us for coming in. Didn't have to, but he thanked us for coming in. And I still talk about this still today, 10 years later, millions of meals later, and I still talk about that. And I think we lose that. We used to train that back in the day. Is your chef should be in the front.
Yeah.
The chef should be out in the front, searching the tables, going around talking to people, thanking them to come in. We forgot, and I still think Disney doesn't. I think we forgot to thank people coming to our restaurants, because that's when you say loyalty. I thought loyalty was gone because people don't do those things.
Well, there's probably less of it. And it's probably harder because, so many people left the industry during the pandemic, and those experienced people aren't there to teach the new people. That's one thing, because they left and they didn't come back. And so you have a lot of new people in the industry, and not maybe as many, seasoned managers and supervisors and mentors that can teach that. And couple that with restaurants aren't investing in training.
That's absolutely right.
If some restaurants are losing, even the chains, they're they're putting more locations onto their district managers, which I think is causing pressure at the restaurant level because there's not as much support. Right, a lot of times the training comes from that person, or at least the training standards, or the access to training. Gwen, I think you can speak to this. We tell one of our audit customers, listen, this is available on this website within your company. They say, oh, really? That's like, yeah, there's 40 billion resources there. The challenge is there's 40 billion resources there. You know what I mean? Like, where do I go? How do I even find this? How do I navigate through this? And sometimes, it's like information overload. So now it goes back to, I think, what Gwen said. It's that manager or supervisor. So if you're there coaching, hey, get to the door, thank the customer, right? And you're doing it and you're modeling that for them, and they're going to see the benefit that comes from that, and maybe there's no benefit right then because they don't see it, right? But it's the feel good and the appreciation from the customer from that good service, and maybe even bad service or bad food, but the thanks still for coming might negate the bad experience they had at the table. It might bring it back to level so that at least I'm going to give you a second chance. And that happened to me recently with a friend of mine. We went to a dessert place in Calgary. The food was not spectacular. It was really not necessarily great.
Yeah.
But the server was spectacular and enthusiastic and friendly. And when I asked my friend, he said, he kind of said the same thing. He said, but you know what? I'd go back because if I got that same guy, that made me feel good about even being here. The food wasn't great, but I'd go back because this person was caring, came back and checked on us. Like he kind of just, he hit everything. And he wasn't working with great stuff, but he hit it all, right? He made us feel comfortable. So, training, SafeCheck training, we're training. We don't train all these things, right? You're going to have to find some of that training somewhere else. But if you invest time and energy in with your staff and you make them feel like they're part of a team and that you care, not only about them, but the customers as well. But first it has to be them, right? You can't take care of your customers if you don't take care of your people. It ain't going to happen. And
that starts by taking care of yourself.
Yeah. There you go. Wow.
You like that, eh?
What a way to end, eh?
There you go. Well, first of all, Gwen, thank you so much.
Thank you
for joining us tonight or today. And Dominic, safe travels down there. Enjoy yourself. Are you down there for more days?
Yeah, a few more days.
A few more days?
Yeah.
Right? Enjoying the heat. It looks hot. You just look hot.
It's hot. Oh, it's terrible. It's like the hottest weather they've had in years, apparently. And it usually rains at night to cool it off, and that hasn't happened. But.
Oh. Well, all the best. Safe travels.
Thank you.
And to everyone else, you know what? We're back again next week. We got more shows coming up. Dominic, maybe we'll just send you around to different resorts.
Thanks. we got a company to run.
Where do you want to go next?
Well, I would like to say somewhere hot, but again, my granddaughter says I miss the snow. It's like, what?
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe we can send you somewhere else.
Gwen was just in. Where were we in Yellowknife or?
Yeah, Yellowknife.
Did they have snow there? No, I don't.
No, but a lot of smoke.
A lot of smoke, eh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's end this. Thanks so much, both of you, and check us out, Canada's Food and Everything Else Safety Podcast. All right. Thanks, Dominic. Thanks everyone else. Thanks, Gwen. And have a good day. There we go.